So the original thing actually says Search API, but really Search API for the use with Solr is the main thing. I'm actually going to show you using it without Solr, and then the benefits you get by running Solr as well, because you can actually get all the benefits of a better search without installing Solr if you don't want to, or Elasticsearch, or one of the others. So I'm going to actually show you how you can set it all up to do your search. Then I'm going to say install Solr now and use Solr, and you get some extra things, especially if you're an e-commerce guy and you're trying to do related products and things like that. Solr will generate those for you. And that's normally a huge pain in the butt. Okay. I'm Lee Walker. I'm the principal engineer at CodeJourneyman. That's me, Lee at CodeJourneyman.com, and I'm Drupal Nougat because I run the Drupal camp Chattanooga, which brings me to this. It's in about 3 weeks. We're up in just an hour and a half away. Come up for Drupal camp Chattanooga. It's also the Head of the Hooch regatta that weekend. Unfortunately, I found out after I picked this date. So lots and lots of rowing going on downtown. Lots of rowing going on downtown. At least it wasn't during the Ironman. When the Ironman comes in, there's not a hotel room for 25, 30 miles. Okay, and also one of the things we're doing, anyone that's new to Drupal and interested in sort of getting some Drupal training, or any guys that people always ask you, how do I get into Drupal, what do I have to do? Doug Van's a friend of mine, and I pay for him to come down. Well, I say I pay. I get one sponsor to pay. He comes down and does his Drupal in a day training. Our beginner track is an entire day's training for Drupal. So if you don't know anything, you come in here, we'll show you how all the basics of Drupal, building a site actually on Pantheon. So, and our internet does work because we have gigabit. Actually, as of 2 days ago, we have 10 gigabits. We're known as Gig City. We've had gigabit fiber for 5, 6 years, and it's $70. Just so you know, we get 1,000 each way for $70 a month. No, I don't have to sign, there's no installation fees, nothing. Just $70 is all I pay.
Is that through EPB?
EPB. Yeah. We're rated as the 3rd fastest person to do Netflix to. Yeah, there's like 2 just above us, and they just pip us ever so slightly. Yeah. So everyone who says you shouldn't let your local utilities do fiber to your home, don't listen to those people. Let them do it. It's the greatest thing ever. Okay, so we talk about 2 separate pieces, Search API, and then adding Solr into the Search API. This is what built-in Drupal search looks like that's what your client looks like when you show him it. Does anyone actually use the default Drupal search? It's pretty hideous, right? There's never money in the budget for it to do search. They just kind of assume it's going to work, and they just kind of assume it's going to work like Google works. And you're like, nah, it's not. And trying to convince them to give you more time and effort to put it in. So you just theme it as best you can and use the built-in one. Now, if you don't use the built-in one, nearly everyone else just builds views, right? You build views with some expose filters, and it gives you some form of search. I'm missing all my notes. I don't know where that went. So we have some problems with the basic search. It's one size fits all. It searches for everything. You can't weight things. Frequently, your clients say, yeah, I want this kind of stuff, but my current client is like, all the Department of Energy funded things have to be at the top. Yeah? If they turn up in the list, they're going to be at the top no matter what. And you get those requests all the time. Yeah, we're selling Christmas things, but we've got lots of these, so we want to make sure that the ugly Christmas Santa dolls turn up at the top so people see them, so we sell more of them, or something like that. Your clients will always ask for search results to be massaged to help their business goals. And it's a perfectly valid request. It's just awkward, frequently. So yeah, what you tend to use is views and expose filters. It's much better, but when you expose the filter, you can expose the title or the body or something, and you can type it in, but it only searches one field. You can make it do other things, but you're now getting into the weeds and you're doing non-standard things, and you're getting into custom things, and those things tend to be fragile, break a lot. Your clients are never happy with them. You spend all this time and effort on them, and it just never works. It's better than default search. It's a lot better than default search, but it's just not right. But at least, when the client asks for ice cream, you gave him ice cream instead of a corn dog. I hate corn dogs, by the way, which is why I picked that picture. At least you have a search that basically looks like a search, and you have control over what it's searching, but it's still, views. So it's hitting the database. This is where Search API really comes into its own. You pick a server and then an index, and you can say this index is users, or this index is just products, or just blog, or products and blog things, or however you want to do it. You can weight fields differently, so if you type a word in and the word's in the title, it's worth more or scores higher than if that word appears in the body of it. So it's something that's a lot harder to do with views on its own, and it's almost impossible to do without severely customizing the default search. You can get faceted search for free. So the facets down the side, if you've ever gone to Newegg and you're searching for computer monitors, you just type computer monitor in and it will say manufacturer, and it lists the manufacturers, and it will say there are 6 by Hitachi and 2 by NEC and things like that. That's a facet. And the great things about facets are, if you pick a facet, you are guaranteed results. You can never type some search in and click a facet and get no results. And the worst thing you can do for someone who's looking for something is saying nothing matched. Here's a blank screen. Now, once you turn Search API on, you actually still build your search using views. So how you've done it before, building views with an exposed filter, you still do it the same way, except instead of telling it to search for nodes, you actually say use this index and search on the index. This is awesome. The autocomplete, so as you're typing, it will actually suggest things, and the things it suggests, there are results for. It's actually gone and looked in the database for results and counted them, and actually give you a count. So it starts to look a lot more like how Google works. It gives you some suggestions. It might even give you, when you have Solr turned on, it'll actually give you a did you mean if you've misspelt things. It'll actually give you those things as well. So now you have something better. Here, you now have ice cream with sprinkles. And ice cream with sprinkles is better than ice cream. Ask any 5-year-old. So we'll give a quick demo. So you can build it. So this is built in, it's a basic Drupal site. As you can see, I did it at Drupal Camp Florida, then I did this at Drupal Camp Asheville, and I'm reusing it here as well. I need a new presentation. Well, I keep saying I'll do something else, then people ask, because not many people talk about Search API and Solr, because they're kind of peculiar. So the modules you have installed, that's the configuration. It turns up into search again. So search and metadata, there's this Search API. And you define a server. So you can actually have a server that's in the database. So it's just like building a view. The database does it. The reason you don't use the in-database one is a few people doing a few interesting searches and facets can really bring your site to a crawl because it basically hammers the database. The good thing about Solr is it actually sends the information to Solr and lets Solr, which is a separate Java application, do all of the work and pre-calculate a bunch of facets and things for you. So when you ask it questions, it just goes, here's the answer, and it's instant, as opposed to trawling all the way through the database, trying to build these things up. So Solr does pre-calculations of things for you. So you install Search API, the Search API facet to give you facets, and facets are just blocks. Once you've turned them on, they're blocks. You just stick the blocks on the page, just like you stick blocks on the page, facets appear. You can theme facets in different ways. You can just write a simple plugin for them, and you can right-click them and say show them as checkboxes, show them as links. I've got one that shows them as bootstrap buttons, and when you click them, they change a different color, and I have a little X to get rid of them. They're very, very easy to, there's lots of information on writing little plugins to theme it. So after you create a server, and the servers are pretty simple. You can add a server, give it a name, and give it a service class. And so right now I have two. The The Search API DB is a server. You install it and turn it on, and you get the database service, which is probably hard to see. And I've also Search API underscore Solr, so I've installed them both and turned them both on. So now, when I look for the service class, I can create, the next server. We'll go ahead and do this. This is, we're in DribbleCamp ATL. And we'll pick a database service and create. So you can actually tell it not to, it will look at words one or, you can make it say, I'm not interested in any word less than 3 characters long or things like that. We'll just leave it on 1 for now. So we create a server and it says, great. Let's go back to Search API. So now I have another server, DCATL. Now, all I have now is a server. I actually have to create an index. And this is where indexes come in. You can create an index per type of search you want. So say we're going to search on nodes. So DCATL node. It really helps to give them names, useful names, because one of the things you do is when you say a new view, one of the things, one of them is node. In the dropdown is that index you're interested in. I want to build a view from this index. So giving it a name that's quite obviously an index helps. This is nodes. This will attach to this server because we've got more than one. Create an index. Right, so now it's going to look at the nodes and decide what fields are on it and which ones we want indexed. Because it won't necessarily index everything straight off the bat. So we probably want the title. There's a bunch of things there we're not interested in. Really for search, but we probably want title. This is important. Even if you're not going to use it, check it. We have a bunch, for one of my clients, Department of Energy, they have some private things, private documents that are indexed in Solr that are in an private organic group, and it's about nuclear, it's actually spent nuclear fuel. So they don't want people seeing it unless they have the ability to see it. Even if you're not interested in author, when you're checking against private ones, it actually does some code here which checks, are you the owner, is one of the questions it asks. If you haven't indexed it, the whole thing blows up and you see everything. It took me forever to work that out. Just always check the author. It doesn't matter. It will save you. It will save you a lot of pain and suffering. We probably want the body. There's a first name and a last name in some of these. I should actually show some content types that I created. So I've just told it what fields. It moves straight over to filter. You'll notice what was missing out of there was the body. Generally, you want the body, for some reason, is always in this extra one. Whatever you do, don't go through here, because you can pick weighting. Like, I want its full text, and anything in the title's worth 1. I'm going to boost that to 3, because if your word's in the title, I want it to be higher than if it just turns up in some other piece of content in the body. If you do all of that work, then go to the bottom and go Add Body and click Save. All of this work you've done is thrown away. So save it before you add extra ones. I speak from multiple counts of experience of shouting at it. Okay, so we've got the body text. And we'll add that, and you see it turns up as full text, and there's taxonomy terms here. So let's also do the category, field category, and I'm going to make everything in the title worth 3 times as much. So I've just told it what to do here. This is where this node access comes in. Only allow people that, if you've got node access in Drupal, so you can't see certain things, you don't have permissions, this will do it. And when you check that, you have to have author checked on field, or else it will just blow up silently, and all of a sudden this is extra stuff, and you've got no idea why it happened. Obviously, you don't want unpublished. And you can actually tell it to filter on different bundles. So we actually have the article and basic page. We'll let it do everything. You can aggregate fields as well. So if you've got multiple fields, say you've got a list of authors, and you add another, input another text, add another, put another text in, the multiple fields. You want that to be a single field to search on. You can click aggregate here and aggregate those fields together. Alternatively, you can do it in code. I tend to do it all in code because it's quick and easy rather than keeping track of all this. And I'll show you one of the ones I've done. Ignore case is always useful. Let's have an HTML filter. Let's highlight the words. So if I type biofuel in and it returns me a snippet with biofuel, all the words biofuel or any of the words I put in are all highlighted. They're all in strong is basically what it is. But you can actually change that to whatever you like because it says the suffix here is strong and the closing suffix is /strong. And this is interesting, the create excerpt. So when you actually type a search in, it will actually return you a snippet of it back with some of the words in it, which I use for one of my clients. You actually kind of hover on the title, a little box pops up and it shows you some of the body information in the search snippet. I'll actually show a real working site. We're not going to exclude any of them. We'll save that configuration. Autocomplete won't show anything yet because I haven't actually built a view. When you've built a view and you've exposed the full text box, it will appear in here. You can check the box and autocomplete works. It's really, that's it. You expose the filter box, and you're done. You just come back here and check it. I haven't built a view yet. So I've got facets. I can build facets on things. Let's build facets on, there should be a category in here. Yeah, we'll build a category. Title's pretty useless. Do we have the same authors? Yeah, well, we'll do that. So I've told it what fields I want it to index. I've told it how to ignore unpublished nodes, things like that, take into account whether people have access to that node or not to show it in search results, and told it what facets to build. But it hasn't actually done anything yet. I've just configured it. What you actually have to do is build the index. If you go to view here, there's this index now. And you can kick it with drush. I've only got 53 items in the thing, so it doesn't take very long. When you start doing search API stuff, your life revolves around rebuilding your search index. You just do it hundreds and hundreds of times a day. You do a little tweak. When you've tweaked it, you're going to have to rebuild the index because you've made some changes. Basically, I end up clearing it all, rebuilding it all. If you're running 10,000 or lower, you can probably kick it from here and be all right. It uses the batch API. Or you can just, there's drush commands, just rebuild my index, please. I think it's RI, rebuild index. So now I actually have an index. It's actually indexed the information. So it's looked at those fields, it's built the stuff, it's got the facets. And I can actually build a view of it now. So if we can add a new view, we can do it really simple. So now, you'll see here there's a DCATL node, which was the name of my search index. There's several other indexes now I've built before. So the name you gave your search index is what you build here, and you'll notice that it immediately simplifies out everything. So I'll give it a page title DCATL. So we're back onto just straight up, we're going to take fields. Yeah. Oh, didn't give it a name. I do that every time when I make a view. Okay, so right now we've got a list of, all it does is pull out the node ID, but you'll see it actually says indexed node. So it's actually pulling data from the index, not from the database, not from pulling all these other fields together. So it's actually indexed the stuff into a single table that allows it to go through without having to join everything together. It's still slow if lots of people are doing it because it's still in the database instead of offloading it to Solr. So let's add the title and we can filter on index node again. So we'll keep all of that. So now we have the node ID and the title. Actually, let's just link it to its entity. But again, didn't we just do, it's a kind of a search. We're supposed to put a search box in, and we're supposed to filter by, we're supposed to sort them by which matches the search best. So you actually have to, let's add this. We're going to get an excerpt. Now, if you look on search here, there's actually excerpt and relevance. Relevance is the count. So you'll actually sort by relevance. I'm just going to put them in the field so you can see them. Normally, you sort by them, but don't actually show it. And obviously, we want to sort by relevance, descending. Okay. Which, right now, there are no excerpts, and they all have a relevance of 1, because we haven't searched on anything. So it's just doing the usual. Okay. We want to filter. If you do search, there is a full text. Now, the beauty of full text is it will search anything that you have indexed as full text. So your title's full text, the body's full text. You can make all of the other text fields be full text. So it will search all the text fields that you've marked as full text. It will not necessarily, well, it won't, without a little bit of work, search like taxonomies was full text as well. One of the things I do is I pull all the category names together in a single text field as a property to the entity in code and make them all sort of concatenate together, stick them in. Then that turns up in the field and I say index that as well. And I don't show it. I just have it indexed as a string of full text. Then it will show up. So let's expose it. Full text search. So now we actually can search on things, allegedly. So let's save that. Let's go to the view page. So now we have, so as you can see here, I've got some lorem ipsum in here. Oh, look, there's a search API in Solr. Let's search for search. I didn't find anything. Oh, is that a title? That's a good question. Why did that not work? I can, instead of debugging, I'm just going to go to one that works. So, I'm going to go to this one. Basically, I built a view in a table, so it's just simply the same thing. I've turned autocomplete on. If we look at this again, it's from the database. It's the problem of doing live things. You talking and doing things at the same time, you skip something. So I can look down here and see things. There's Search API in Solr. So I can start typing, and it will look things up. Now, typing C found search. And search is guaranteed to have results. That's not just I've found a word that kind of matches. It knows that it has those results. Similarly, if I type law, no? single letter in. It's all the lorem ipsum. So all of those are guaranteed results. So if let's just pick one. And now you can see we have the excerpt down the side, and it's highlighted where it found it, and give you a relevance because it's in Lorabilis. I guess it's in 3.5, 4.5 places, in multiple places through it. And turning that full text search on, so this is the node configuration search API. This is the search node DB index. Because it has you've created the exposed full text form, it turns up in here with the name, you check the box, that's it. You have to do nothing else to get autocomplete turned on. You simply tell it, I'd like that to happen, please. The module just makes it work. Okay. And so similarly, I built one for users. So now we can have a user search. And obviously there are some categories on it. Some of them are active and blocked. Obviously all 7 of them are authenticated users. 3 of them are Beatles. So we're like, which guys belong in the Beatles? And it tells you there are 3. I don't particularly like the turn this facet off, which is this little minus thing. But again, you can change your theming of that around. And again, we can look for, so that's just going to find Paul McCartney. And again, it returns an excerpt and a relevance, because it's in the title. It's like, hey, it's got 3 points. Okay. And these are just blocks. So these are the facets that are built. You'll see them simply by pick structure blocks, where you'd expect to see these things. It'll be called facet API : something. Tell you what index it's on and what it's actually on. So I've actually built several for different indexes, so you kind of have to pay attention to what you've named them. So naming things sensibly really helps. But that's true with anything, I think. So once you check the facets, it turns on. So there we have, you've built a server in the database. You created an index, in this case, for nodes. And then you've built a view that looks at that index to show you those things. And because you've exposed the full text search, you can then go back and check the box and get autocomplete. So it'll actually suggest things for you as you type in. Obviously, your search will not look like that, but it gives you an idea. It shows you what's coming out. The index also told it which categories. So generally, you use taxonomy terms for a lot of this, for filtering. That's a really good use for it. All the things searching on a single taxonomy term need to share the same field for that. Sometimes people when you create a content type, each field in it is unique to that content type. We don't share any fields. If that happens, you end up with like a category for one content type and a category for another content type, and you can't search across them. So you do actually need to use shared taxonomy fields, which actually makes sense, and it works a lot better, rather than having 3 different categories, like search by category on articles, search for category on basic page, search for category on event. It's going to get really complicated really quickly. Yeah, sure. I think I've just got simply category. Yeah, it built me a bunch of random ones. I used the devel module just to randomly create me some stuff, some users. It created me some users, some taxonomy terms. Should be under the term category. Structure. So these are, yeah, so field category. That's that one. Oh, it's users, sorry. The users are tagged with whether they're a beetle or whatever, not the content. Okay. So we want keynote. There we are. Let's check. We got okay. So now you've got a much better search. You can start typing in. It gives you suggestions. It gives you facets. It's already better than default search. And you're not using Solr yet. You're actually doing the same kind of thing you're doing in default search. You're doing it in the database. So even if you don't have a Solr instance, you can still do all of this. It's just a lot of people hitting it and doing that kind of interesting things all at the same time might bring your site to a knees much quicker than offloading it to Solr. So you had a question? Oh, I have, the default search is still sitting there. I've not turned it off. You can go and turn it off.
So it doesn't matter if it's on or off?
No, it doesn't matter whether it's on or off. I think a cron will still start triggering the default search if you leave it turned on. I pretty much always just turn it off.
Do you happen to know the difference in, I guess, like you were saying, hitting the database and doing all that to bring a site to its knees? Do you happen to know, I guess, the difference in page speed versus doing that versus views versus default search?
I don't.
You don't? Okay.
I think it's also going to entirely rely on what kind of search you're doing. Because you can make some complicated ones using Search API, and generally on default search you're getting, it's all hitting the database. So it's an expensive operation immediately. This is why Solr comes in. And the thing is, you can actually prove what you want without having Solr, because you can actually build it using a database server and then say, now I want that thing in Solr. And it's exactly the same thing you just built. You can change it over to a different server and it will do it all the same. Right, so we did the demo. So here we are. These are the modules you're going to need. So the Search API, which is your basic one. Search API DB, which is the in-database. This has been recorded a couple of times. It's out on YouTube, this presentation as well. And I'm happy to talk to anyone about Search API at any point. So Search API DB gives us the data in-database server, Facet API, and then there's two of these in Search API, and this autocomplete module at the bottom allows you to expose that full text search and just click autocomplete checkbox and it suggests stuff to you. So we did the demo without Solr. It's hard to do without the... So that's all great. So why, if that does all of that, why the heck should you use Solr? Speed. It does, also Solr has some very interesting things built into it. So we basically have speed. Solr's an HTTP request, it runs in Java. If you are using Pantheon or you're using Acquia, I don't know about Platform SH, I bet you, they must do. You have Solr already. There's an instance there ready for using. So if it's there, use it. You're already paying for it. And Solr has some really useful things. They're more like this. Anyone who's built an e-commerce site, your client will say, I want, similar things and more like this. Those things are really hard to build. You tend to have to hand curate a bunch of those things. Sometimes hand curation is actually the right answer because they want to pick what goes in the more like this. But it's time consuming and it's a pain in the butt and developers don't want to do it. So you can actually let Solr do that by telling it what fields to have when they do a search and they find things that match. It actually matches things behind and will give you a more like this. Actually, the front page of my thing will show it. Geospatial search is awesome. It's all in kilometers, by the way, which is fine for me, but some people don't think in kilometers. You can basically give it points and say, I want things, find doctors near me. For one of the clients did it is like, I want to find an oncologist, a female oncologist within 10 miles of me right now, please. He goes, there's one here and one here. Especially doctor-wise, that's something people want to do all the time. They want to pick whether it's a man or a woman, they want to pick a certain type, they want to pick someone near me. You can do it all in Solr will do that. Now, doing geospatial in the database, you'd probably have to write a ton of custom code. You don't necessarily, I won't necessarily say no, it won't happen, but it's so much easier just to turn it on on Solr. The did you mean spell check is awesome as well. You'll type something in, and that drop down that gives you results, as you're typing, it will say, did you mean? Just like Google does. You start typing in, it suggests things for you. If you type something that's close to a word, it will suggest that word for you, and you can just click it and it will search it. This is why they say you should use it. If your use case requires a person to type words into a search box, you want a text search engine like Solr. And that's pretty much everything, right? That's basically saying, you want us. And it's pretty true. Now, with Search API as well, Solr's not the only other back-end engine. If you're interested in Elasticsearch, Elasticsearch and Solr are both built on Lucene, which is the back-end text parsing engine. So no one uses Lucene on its own. Like, Solr is a productization of Lucene, and Elasticsearch is a productization of Lucene. They just do things in slightly different ways. Solr is actively developed. Lucene is, Elasticsearch is as well. You can, like you shard a database and put your things, you can shard Solr as well. So you have multiple instances, and when you have lots of data, you can shard it across. Elasticsearch, it's actually awkward to set that sharding up. You just have to know what you're doing. It's one of those, you're not going to give it, ask someone to shard a database if they don't know what they're doing. Elasticsearch, you fire Elasticsearch up, you fire another copy up, they find each other, go, hey, handshake, and fire another one up, they all handshake with each other and hand it off. No. You're looking at me like you needed me. So Solr is its own Java service. This is, the Tika is actually really awesome. So frequently you upload PDFs, documents, Microsoft Word documents, and all that kind of stuff. Solr can index those as well. So you can actually type a search term in, and it will find a word inside your PDF. And you set up, and Tika is what does that. Again, it's Java again. It basically tokenizes everything inside it into text, and then all of that gets shoved in one big field that's a full text search that it will search on it. And of course, there are some words you don't want to search on. You don't want to search on little words, you don't want to search on swear words. You want to make sure that they're, your clients might be funny about things, and there's a default list that Solr comes with, and you can put other ones in. And you can promote results. You can say if someone searches for, anyway, we'll just be playing with this week, in fact. You can actually give search phrases. So you want to say, I'm trying to get rid of, I don't know, it's coming up to Thanksgiving. So if someone types Thanksgiving in, these are the things that get promoted. These certain things get promoted to the top. So you can actually say, if a person types this in, I want to see these first, followed by the regular search. And it's really easy to do and manipulate in Solr. You do actually have to edit a config file for that, but frequently they tend to be seasonal if it's an e-commerce. So once you've done 1 year, you can comment them out. Next year, just uncomment them and they all come back in again. So it also stems. So baseballs and baseball are the same thing. Rips out useless words, a, the, of. It will also take out, acute characters and e-hat and make them e, so you can search more intuitively on it. And also you can use synonyms. So if I type doctor, I get someone that's a practitioner. And if I type cookie, I get biscuit, because they're called biscuits. The first time someone offered me biscuits and gravy, I just looked, I was like, what the heck? I was like, oh, okay. I've been here nearly 20 years now. I've pretty much got used to it. So you can make words similar. Now, this is actually very useful because your clients will generally come around and ask, oh, yeah, the reason I've done doctor and practitioner is because we used it for a doctor one. And some doctors like to be called surgeon or whatever it happens to be. Okay, so all you do to get more of it is turn the search API Solr on, and the spell check is part of Solr. So to turn search API spell check on, you actually need Solr turned on. So Solr gives it works faster and gives you some extra things. The more like this, the spell check. And you still build a block, you still build it with views. The more like this turns up as a block. Okay, I'll get back to this. Let's look at, so what I've done is I've built one in Solr. Actually, let's go back to the front page. We're talking about the more like this. This is the node, the Drupal camp. This is the Drupal camp. It goes, hey, these are both Drupal camps. It showed me more like this. All I did was drop the block on. So that actually got returned from Solr because this was the Drupal camp Florida, Drupal camp Asheville, and I'm actually using the Drupal camp New Orleans site. So this is like the 4th or 5th time I've done this. So we're actually getting some more relevant content in. But that whole more like this block came back from Solr. I simply put the block on the page. It looked at what node was being shown, goes, oh, that's a Drupal camp thing. Oh, something else is called Drupal camp, and slaps one in. Again, you don't have to do anything. I believe there is a whole bunch of massaging you can do to that in Solr. And it's all configuration files, and that's getting into the weeds. But if you need to do it, you can actually do it. So, okay, if we have a node on a Solr. Now you'll notice what I've turned on this one is on the end is a 36. It says if I search for sed, there are 36 results. And that, I didn't even know that existed one day till I clicked edit on my autocomplete. Oh, look at that, check the box, turns up. And I was like, I can't believe I've been doing this for like 2 years and I never noticed that. Turning that on. So search API. So that was the Solr node index. On the autocomplete, there's a little edit tag here that I'd never clicked before. Display result count estimates, that's all you've got to do. That's it. And also, if you type one letter and you don't want it to go off looking for results, you can say 3 here, and it will wait till you've typed 3 letters in before it goes off and tries to find things for you. I left it on 1 just to show that it works. Yeah, every time you type a letter, it goes off and looks for things. But if you're going to Solr, I mean, again, that's going to be much more aggressive on the database if you're doing an in-database one. But on Solr, you just send the request off.
So if you type in an S, then you find everything that starts with an S?
Now, I think it's everything with an S in it. That starts with an S. You can change it to contains. I think this box has been it's just a views exposed filter. When you type in it, it says contains or begins with. I think that's set up to begins with. Contains can be kind of aggressive if you just put, hey! Yeah.
Then you have to do SE before you find all the SEs.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I could turn that, yes. If you typed S in, if you told it 2 in this case, you typed S, nothing would happen. It wouldn't fire off the AJAX call on the back to find those things. But it knows there's only 1 in search.
You have for a user experience 1, 2, 3.
I tend to put it on like 2 or 3. Because by the time you get there, you're kind of moving on. For users, because people are called Ben, having it on 3 isn't that useful. So sometimes I put those down to 2. Sometimes I just leave it on 1. If it's Solr, Solr's pretty quick. It's sitting there doing nothing most of the time. So the second you type it, it actually sends a request off to Solr, and Solr just hands it straight back to you. So let's now, another useful thing is if you do all these searches, so I don't know, let's search on something easy. This has 36, and then we'll take the ones that Britney Spears did down to 4. I've got a set of search results here that is 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I can copy this URL and send it in an email to someone. They can click it, they get exactly the same search results. All the information is up here. So it's not hidden from you in any way, shape, or form, which is really good because when you use panels and things to do things, you can actually look up here and form contexts from it and decide what's going on the page from searches. Similarly, there's a user search. These look the same. The only difference is the back end is done with Solr, and so when you do search, it runs a little bit faster, and it will give you doesn't seem to have the, whoa, look at that one. There's a concatenation of everything there. Okay, keynote. Now, sometimes you're going to index a date. So you want a thing, so you've got news articles, and you want a facet on year, so 2015, 2014, 2013, all of that. But if you look at a date isn't just a year, it's a full date. It's got all this information, and if you just click it and say build a facet on that, it will try and build it on all the pieces. When you click 2014, it'll try and give you a month afterwards, like a sub-facet, which is not at all what you want. So frequently you want to have extra fields that get searched, but you never actually show to anybody. So what I do for dates is I actually use this hook entity property info alter, which adds a property to the entity. When you add a property to the entity, it turns up in your index that you can just check. You can actually make it, there's 2 ways. You can actually do it the entity is Drupal way and add things to the entity that are hidden from the content type. They're just properties, they're not actually fields. Or you can manipulate it at the Solr end and tell Solr to do some extra things. I find it much easier to do it this way because then you're not doing some in the index and some at Solr. This you actually, you massage the entity to have everything in it you want, and then do everything the same way. I just find it's easier to think about. I don't have to remember which way I did it. So I'd take a year, and I'd create a new property year, and I'd give it a new name, just like I give a field a name, it gets a machine name. There's a callback that we basically, you get the date, extract the year and stuff it in as text. And that's all that happens. I'll show you a small snippet later on. So there's a couple of gotchas. Yeah. Just index author and be done with it. Just always do it. Yeah, and obviously you need the same machine name for taxonomies to sort across content types. You don't want category user, category node, category article. Otherwise you end up with 3 different facets. What you really want is 1 facet. The full text search will search everything marked full text. So it won't necessarily, if you've got a category of, whether they're a Rolling Stone or whatever, or a Beetle, it won't necessarily search on Rolling Stone in it. You might want to use this hook entity property info alter to find the categories, stuff them as text, and generally what I do is I concatenate them all into one massive string with spaces in between and shove that in as an entity and then tell it to index it. Now, you're never going to show that to the end user, it's just what Solr's going to use to search on it. So it'll find it and it'll return you, but you're not showing that field, it's a property, you're not showing that property to anybody, so it never happens, it just allows the search to go through it. So, if someone's got like keywords, yeah, I've got a client that still types keywords in, and I basically concatenate those into a space-separated one big property and search on it, but never show it to anyone. The year is a classic one of create just a year for filter, because technically a date has an end date as well, even if you haven't filled it. There's actually stuff there for an end date. There's all this extra stuff in you don't want, you just want one. Stuff it into the entity as a property, and this hook entity property info alter, and you're all good. This looks ugly. So I think what I did on this one was, some things can be flagged multiple times, and when you're looking at it, I want to say, this has been flagged by more than 6 people. So what I'm actually doing here, so I get some flag information and get a count, and then there's this get a callback, example get flag count. And really what I'm doing here is I'm saying, compute this and it's a flag, call this to work out how much it is. And that's the next one. I basically, because it's just the info alter, it says, I want to add this new property to the entity, and you call example get flag count to do it, and I just call the database and get a count and return the value. So I should use a string here. Counting flags is a stupid example. But what I could do here is say, concatenate all these separate fields together into a single field, and then I'll concatenate them here and return it, and that's it. And you end up with, now when they ask you for ice cream, you give them that. Instead of, now I actually have, before we do the thank you thing, I'll actually show you an actual site. So this is this is the BioKDF, which is the Department of Energy biofuel. They like to predict how much biomass is in the US and how much of it can be turned into biofuel, and they predict 50, 60, 70 years out. And they do all this, they do all of this research on it, and then they share it. The KDF is a knowledge discovery framework. So all these researchers put their information in here. Now this is that, I'd always do. So if I search on bio, that's actually the exposed, I've replaced, that's the exposed form there. I've just replaced it in the regular search one has shoved it up there. So now you can find the one you're interested in. This returns like 200. I am running it, aren't I? It must be running it, okay. Ignore that. So here their facets look slightly different. So we're currently playing with them. So they look like bootstrap buttons. So when you select one, it turns it on as little x so you can turn it off. The other thing I've done here is if you actually do a search and you hover, the nice thing is they can actually scrub down without actually clicking through each one. So it gives them what I've actually done is a little body, and this is the search excerpt just here. So when they do search, they can kind of scrub down and have a look at what they're interested in. And that's just a Bootstrap pop-up. It's trivial to put together. It's HTML with the right classes, and it all just works. I love Bootstrap. It doesn't look like a Bootstrap site, but it's a Bootstrap, well, except for the Bootstrap buttons, of course. This is actually a true or false. The DOE funded, if you've got a Boolean, so you check a box. Unfortunately, what will happen is a facet by default will say true and false with a number next to it, and you check them. So you actually have to manipulate those in code to get rid of one and rename the true one to be DOE funded. So it just shows you which ones are DOE funded. That's actually in use. This should go live end of the month, as long, hopefully. They keep coming up with new ideas. They actually want these facets in one of the accordion things. And I'm like, but if you pick something, then click something else, it's going to hide the fact that you've got a facet. But no, and they also want the buttons full width. And again, here we can show this facet display, a little bit of code. I wrote one called Bootstrap Badge List. I can change it to links.
I've decided though that when clients start wanting intelligent things, we're already be out of business.
And this is what it generally looks like, but all I did was write. But the thing is, you can do a lot of this. There's a lot of doing it over and over again. But eventually you kind of get an idea of how it all works, and you can actually do some really good things and give them a really useful search without that much effort. It's just a matter of learning. It's like Drupal. You bang your head against it a few times, then it sort of makes sense. And I drive lots of things with Drupal, with Solr now. I have multiple indexes. When people say, oh, I want to find, actually, let's show you what's live. Oak Ridge National Labs.gov. We just migrated these guys from iApps, I think it was called. It's possibly the most dreadful piece of, oh, look, I'm live and I'm logged in. Is it our people? So we have a staff directory. This is done. So obviously you wanted a first letter of everyone's name. That isn't simple initially, but you do the hook entity property info alter, find the first letter and build a category from it. You index it, and then you click the facet, and then you drop the block on, and you're done. So it just makes certain things like that a bit more useful for you. But when you update, like we run migrations every night for the staff. They're actually the canonical list of staff is kept on some other system. So when someone doesn't work there anymore, we don't get told about that. So every night at 2 a.m. we unpublish every single staff. We run the migration, and if anything's changed, like telephone numbers or addresses and things, we update all of that, and then we publish them again. But if they don't exist in that list, they remain unpublished. And that's how we got over that, because they will not, the only thing they wanted to give us was a list. And comparing a list of 10,000 people to a list of another 10,000 people from yesterday sounds like a nightmare to me. I was like, let's just unpublish them and we'll run the migration and it'll all be great. And it is mostly working. So how are we doing for time? I think we're done, right? Okay. So, yeah, so that's it. So, thank you very much for listening. I'm happy to talk to anyone about, you can always get in touch with me. I'll talk Search API and Solr to people all the time. I'm actually going to play with Elasticsearch because I'm kind of interested now. But it basically does the same thing. The Elasticsearch module for Search API has come a long way. Solr is now on version 5. You have to install it and run it. There are instructions. You literally download it to your Mac, as long as you have Java on it, fire it up. It connects to a port, tell it which port it is, and you're done. So I guess I didn't really show that, but I'm happy to talk to you about it.
Is there a slideshow on your screen?
The slides are on, if you go to Drupal Camp Chattanooga, there's some links for last year's videos. So this is on YouTube, and I think I uploaded the slides as well. If they haven't, I will be happy to give them to people. I'll make sure they go up on the Drupal Camp Atlanta one as well. Thank you very much.